Welcome into the Five Guys and the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and Five Reasons Sports. We got our guy, Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. He always has better scenery than I do. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's manufactured. We're going to talk Panthers today. Next week, we'll probably be talking a lot of Heat as we prepare for the draft. But today, Panthers. And to do so, we're going to thank our sponsors first. Our friends over at Water Cleanup. You can find them at WCUFL.com. It's WCUFL.com, your one-stop water and mold cleanup shop. They'll take care of everything based in Boca Raton. They service the entire area. We always recommend that you go to them first before you have a big problem. You got a leak, reach out to them. They're based in Boca Raton. They'll take care of it before it becomes more of a problem. If you do have something that's a problem, they can do the damage assessment as well, the water mitigation, the dry out, and the rebuild, and all of that. So check them out, Michael, Robert, and their great team in Boca Raton. But again, they service the entire area all the way down to the Keys. Check them out at Water Cleanup, WCUFL.com. That's WCUFL.com. All right, I was in the building the other night. I take some responsibility then for this one. Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I don't know. Even though we thought it was going to end, I had a bad feeling. I don't know why. And then when they allowed the first goal, you're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is like an extension of the other night. I mean, at one point, they'd been outscored 11-1 over the course of those two games. And then it's like in the last 12 minutes, they started to play their game. And that's the reason that I have some optimism. I don't want to go too far out there, but I have some optimism about Friday night because it's not like they're completely lost right now. Like they started playing with more desperation, a little bit more care at the same time, and they looked more like themselves. And now today there are some changes. I guess OEL's going to the first power play. Montour's going to the second one. There's just they're making some tweaks. Also, it looks like Lomberg's going to play. He was on the fourth line today. It's not like major stuff, but it's little stuff. And I just look, everybody wanted them to win at home, particularly after that fiasco in Game 4. But at this point, Alex, just get it done. Like I mean, a Game 7 on Monday night, like nobody really wants that, right? Like that this could be catastrophic.
Yeah, if you allow 3-0 to turn into 3-3, I'd like to think that, Paul Maurice, I'm sure, would say all the right things, that, don't worry, it doesn't change our mentality. It would certainly change my mentality. If you go into a winner-take-all Game 7, no matter where it is, it would be on Florida's home ice, obviously, but no matter where it is, I would be really nervous about the Oilers having momentum if they can storm all the way back and tie this series up at 3. This Panthers team has to start faster. And I know that one of their trademarks during the regular season and at times during the playoffs is, and it speaks a lot to the team's guts and the team's mentality, that they never stop playing and that they're capable of putting together these late comebacks. But you can't play too much with fire against a talented team like this in the Stanley Cup Finals. So, obviously it was just a parade of goals in the Game 4 loss in Edmonton, where you lost 8-1. And it was starting that way, like you mentioned the other night in Game 5, right, where the Panthers were down 3-0 and then they were down 4-1. And it's just too big of a hill to expect your team to climb in the Stanley Cup Finals. So they've got to start faster. They also, they of course need to avoid these errors on the power play, because early shorthanded goals have been costly the last couple of games. The Panthers have been so good on 5-on-5, but that it's just there's so many variables, whether they're upper man or down a man. Things tend to go haywire in that regard. And it's interesting, Ethan, because if we zoom out and you could say, before the series started, hey, would you be happy to have a 3-2 series lead heading into Game 6? I think most of us would say, yeah, I would take that. But, given the way this series, having the opportunity to close it out the last two games and not being able to take advantage of it, it causes a little bit of a sense of panic. It does. And maybe panic is a strong word, but I'm someone who has, been a fan of this organization since 1993. Obviously, there were certain eras of my life where I was a bigger fan, a little bit more apathetic in others, but I've been a fan of this organization since day one. I attended games during the 1996 playoff run. I was throwing rats on the ice with my father. This team has never crossed that Stanley Cup finish line. And if it doesn't happen this year after having a 3-0 series lead, when is it going to happen? You've got to get this done, whether it's tomorrow night or whether it's in game 7. You've just got to get this done.
I mean, this would turn the ultimate feel-good story about this organization into a dreadful couple of months, or 2 or 3 months. And not even in the sense of the disappointment, although that'll be a huge part of it, but you may get apathy from some who jumped on the bandwagon and are like, wait, what did I just invest in for the last 2 weeks? In the case of some of them. But when you're filling out buildings when the team's on the road and you're filling out your own building when the team's not even there, and then you lose 8-1, and then everybody gets, okay, well, at least you got the celebration coming up here in a couple of days, and then that doesn't happen. And then, look, there's a recent example here in South Florida sports. I mean, the Miami Heat had a 3-0 lead on the Boston Celtics and let the Celtics come back to 3-3, and then had to do something more difficult than what the Panthers have to do, which is they had to go up to TD Garden and win a game 7 on the road. Not only did they win it, they won it by 30. So that is, like caution, say anything can happen in these situations. And there's a reason why so few teams, and I think the 75 Islanders were one of them, and a few others have come back from 3-0 deficits, because that wasn't to win a Stanley Cup either. It's because it's nearly impossible to do. So if they're going to do it, again, it's going to hurt a lot here in a lot of ways. It's going to hurt. Honestly, it's going to hurt the growth of the sport here, which is on a big rise. I mean, I was at, my daughter still skates at Panthers Ice Den in Coral Springs, as well as across the street at the new Iceplex. And even in Coral Springs, where the Panthers have essentially abandoned that. I mean, not from a marketing perspective, but they don't operate there anymore. But they have the pictures of Barkov up, and they've got a whole row there of stuff. And of course, at Iceplex, it's like, I mean, that store's nicer than the one in the arena. And it was jammed. I went by there a couple of days ago, and it is literally jammed. Like, there are people waiting outside the door to buy stuff overpriced right now. Okay. You lose a 3-0 lead in a series against a team that I think we believe they're better than. Like, maybe, the Edmonton has the best player. You can make an argument about that. But the Panthers have the best players over the course of their roster. And Alex, it just would be awful. I mean, and again, they just have to, you're right. They have to just come out playing their game from the very beginning. It sounds simple, but we know they can do it. And so they're not facing a juggernaut, and they just got to get back to it.
Let me ask you this, and I have my answer, but would blowing a 3-0 lead, is that worse than getting swept? I believe it is. Yes,
it is. It is. Because, again, when you get swept, I think there's an understanding that, like, okay, the other team is just better. We're just not good enough right now. Like, but to blow a 3-0 lead, I mean, again, let's imagine the Heat did that last year. Let's imagine that the Heat did that against Boston. How would that have gone over? Like, and again, by game 7, I can tell you, because the Celtics were a huge favorite in game 7, that Heat fans were resigned to that.
Yeah, I was.
And right. And then the absolute opposite happened. Like, they embarrassed Boston. And as it turned out, it was like, well, this was the best possible result, right? Like, we went up to Boston and Jaylen Brown committed 6,000 turnovers, and you had sad Celtics fans and sad Bill Simmons. Yes, but at the time, it wasn't fun. And so, look, if the Panthers get this one in Edmonton and they're celebrating in the middle of the night out in the middle of nowhere, it's not what it could have been, but they'll still be welcomed back to the airport by fans. There still will be a parade, either at the Jamba Juice or over here by YOLO. They're still going to get all of that stuff. And so, just get it done, I guess. And, I'll say this, I will tell you, one of the worst experiences I've had leaving an arena was the other night. I couldn't stay for locker room. I had something I had to go take care of. So I never do this, but I actually tried to get to my car when everybody else was. Typically I'm at an arena an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours after everybody else has cleared out. That was an angry group. Like, like people were honking each other. I saw 2 accidents in the parking lot. Like, it's just when you go to a game expecting to see like a celebration on center ice and nothing happens, and then you got to get out of a parking lot, even though that place is a lot easier typically than Kaseya Center. It was an ugly scene. There were a lot of angry angry attorneys and accountants at that arena trying to get out of it. All right, I want to get to your thoughts on what you think is going to happen here. Before we do, our friend Jose, I want to tell you about 305 Jersey's 305.
Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called jerseys305.com. That's jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection.
I just want to say one thing before we close up on the Panthers, and we'll make our predictions here. Why are the Celtics being celebrated or celebrating in Miami? All it tells me is they couldn't find anywhere to celebrate in their home city, right?
I thought I haven't been to Boston in more than a decade, but I thought that was a pretty decent town to organize a celebration. It's not like it's Milwaukee or something.
I mean, until midnight, and then everything in Boston shuts down at midnight. But still, like, I don't know. I mean, did they? I mean, I guess they want to see something other than well. I'll leave that alone. Alex. They winning this thing in Game 6? You're on the record.
Okay, I will, because I'm not a coward. I will give you a prediction. But before I do, let me explain why I give you my prediction under protest. Because I'm tired of being party to the jinx that we created on Tuesday. I'm embarrassed of it seemed like a good show at the time, but I'm embarrassed in hindsight of the show that you and I put out on Tuesday, because we were discussing which streets the parade route should happen on. Like that was the thing that we were talking about on Tuesday, thinking they would, win the series in 5 that night. We're not the worst offenders here when it comes to a Panthers jinx, because I do recall a story written by Greg Cody in the Miami Herald before the series started. He referred to Connor McDavid as not a generational player, and I think he referred to him as overrated. I may have paraphrased the second part, but he did say Connor McDavid not a generational player. I think he called him overrated, which I think McDavid, with the way he played the other night, probably read that and took personal offense to it. So we're not the worst jinxers out there. There are people who have done more damage than you and I, but I make this prediction under protest. Ethan, I think the Oilers, I think they're going to win Game 6 and even up the series. I do think that what's going to happen here is Game 6, the Oilers they're going to play like their skates are on fire again. They're going to win at Rogers Place. And then I think the Oilers are going to be completely out of gas by the time Game 7 comes back to Sunrise. So, yeah, my short-term prediction is I think we're all going to have to sweat this one out again, because I think Edmonton's going to start fast again on home ice, beat the Panthers in Game 6, and then I think the Panthers will finally do the job in Game 7. So be prepared. I don't know. Do you know if Game 7, if necessary, do you know when that would happen?
Monday.
Is that on Tuesday, Monday? Okay, Monday. So
Monday.
Yeah. So when we're
not
back
planning
on
any parades.
Tuesday, no, I'm not. But that's my prediction. What about yours?
I'm going to be blamed for this. I think they close it out in Game 6. I do. And I think so because of what they look like in the third period. I feel like the wake-up call came, and I just keep coming back to this. If the two teams, I don't care about the home ice. The Panthers have won in more difficult environments than Edmonton, New York and Boston specifically, this time around, to win huge games. So that does not matter to me. I think if all things are equal and the Panthers are playing at their best, they're better. That's it. They're better. And so I'm going to take them. And now I will say this, okay? I'm against you on the other thing. I think if they lose Game 6, then I think psychologically, Monday is trouble. I honestly think they need to get it done now, because then you're talking about 3 games in a row, and you start to wonder if you're better. And that's and then you're coming home, and that arena for Game 7, yeah, everyone's talking about, oh, it's great to have a Game 7 here, okay, and all the rest of this. Everyone's talking about the 2013 Heat and, you know, all the other teams that have had to do that kind of thing and what the memories are going to be. But that crowd is going to be tense. And if they give up an early goal like they did in this last one, it's going to be hard to pull them back into it. And I win Friday. That's all I'm going to say. Win Friday. By the way, we have our Alex Baumgartner out there. He's hitchhiked. He's taking buses, taking all kinds of stuff. He'll be there by next year. But no, he is actually going to be there on Friday night. All right, check out all of our coverage on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn the notifications on. We will be back with you on Tuesday. I'm not going to say that could be a PAR. No, not going to be that. Okay, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Have a good one, everybody.